Once upon a time, in a quiet village, nestled between rolling hills, there lived a young woman named Emily. She was known throughout the village for her kindness and willingness to help others. One day, a heavy rainstorm descended upon the village, flooding the streets and causing chaos. Amidst the chaos, Emily received a distressing call from a neighbor. It was Mrs. Thompson, an old granny who lived alone on the outskirts of the village. Mrs. Thompson's voice trembled as she explained that her house was flooding and she didn't know what to do. Without a second thought, Emily grabbed her raincoat and dashed out the door, determined to help. Emily waded through the rising waters, her heart pounding with each step. The rain was relentless, and the wind howled through the trees. It was a harrowing journey, but Emily's determination to help the old granny pushed her forward. Finally, Emily reached Mrs. Thompson's cottage, which was surrounded by water. She waded through the flooded yard and knocked on the door. The old granny opened the door, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief. "Oh dear," Mrs. Thompson said, "I don't know what I would have done without you." Emily reassured her and quickly got to work. She helped Mrs. Thompson gather her most cherished belongings and move them to higher ground. They worked tirelessly, moving furniture and belongings to the second floor as the rain continued to pour. As the hours passed, the floodwaters rose higher and higher. Emily and Mrs. Thompson retreated to the second floor, exhausted but safe. They sat together, sharing stories and laughter as they waited for the rain to stop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the rain subsided. The floodwaters began to recede, revealing the extent of the damage. Emily and Mrs. Thompson surveyed the scene, their hearts heavy at the sight of the ruined belongings and the waterlogged house. With a determined spirit, Emily helped Mrs. Thompson clean up and begin the process of rebuilding. The villagers came together to offer their support, and slowly but surely, the cottage began to regain its former charm. Weeks turned into months, and Emily continued to visit Mrs. Thompson, helping her through the challenging times. Their bond grew stronger, and the old granny often referred to Emily as her guardian angel. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily made her way to Mrs. Thompson's cottage. She knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Concerned, she entered the cottage and called out for the old granny. There was an eerie silence that hung in the air. Emily's heart raced as she climbed the stairs to the second floor. The door to Mrs. Thompson's bedroom was slightly ajar. With trembling hands, Emily pushed the door open and gasped in horror. Mrs. Thompson's lifeless body lay on the bed, her eyes closed in eternal slumber. Shocked and heartbroken, Emily realized that the old granny she had cared for so deeply had passed away peacefully in her sleep. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she realized the truth. Mrs. Thompson had been gone for days, and Emily had been caring for her spirit. The realization sent a shiver down her spine, and she felt a chill in the air. In the end, Emily's selfless act of kindness had connected her with a spirit in need, and their bond had transcended the realms of life and death. As she stood in the dimly lit room, Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of sorrow, wonder, and a profound sense of connection with the old granny she had taken care of until the very end.